$1,330 monthly for SSI right now in 2026 from Social Security for the roughly 7.5 million Supplemental Security Income beneficiaries. Do you realize as an SSI beneficiary, you're supposed to be getting significantly more, upwards of $1,330 a month as an individual? Well, that's what I want to share with you here in this video, because this is actually very, very important and something that all SSI beneficiaries should really understand, and I want to break it all down for you. I also have a screenshot here, which I'm going to pop up on the screen in just a second, so you can see and read for yourself exactly what is being pointed out. This is a very important chart with a lot of dollar amounts on here, and I just want you to see that for yourself. Now, I also want to clarify everything that I'm talking about here in this video directly pertains to SSI, Supplemental Security Income beneficiaries who receive these benefits administered by Social Security, not to be mistaken with all the other benefits from Social Security. We're just talking about SSI here in this video. For those of you who are new here, welcome to Retirees Info. My name is Frank, and I've been covering Social Security and SSI benefits for years now. I've talked about this issue multiple times over the last several years, and realistically, over the last couple of months, I've probably said it a couple times as well. But this needs to keep being said until something changes. That's why we're here to advocate for you and make sure you understand exactly what you're entitled to. So here's something I want to point out super fast. And remember, you've probably heard me say this multiple times. The SSI program was originally formed over 50 years ago, back in the 1970s, as an anti-poverty program. That's the whole purpose. That's why it exists. Well, unfortunately, today, the SSI benefits are nowhere near the federal poverty line as far as what they're actually supposed to be. The SSI program and the benefits administered to an individual and a household of two, as in a married couple, are significantly below the actual federal poverty line. In fact, let's pop this screenshot up right here, right now. This is straight off the HHS website, the Health and Human Services website, showing the new federal poverty guidelines for 2026 based on household size. Feel free to look through these numbers right here. The number that I want to look at here is the top one for a household of $115,960. Just keep that number in mind there. That's the number that I really want to focus on. But obviously, there's all kinds of numbers here on this chart, and feel free to look through that. All right, so here's what I want to talk about. As an SSI beneficiary, the maximum you can get right now in 2026 is $994 a month. But if we look at the details of $994 and we multiply that by 12 months, it comes up with a little less than $12,000 for the entire year, a little less than $12,000. However, if you look at the federal poverty line, again, in that chart there for a household of one individual, it's $15,960. Seems a little weird, right? Because $15,960 is the federal poverty line, but yet as an SSI beneficiary getting the maximum of $994, you're actually below the federal poverty line by almost $4,000. Yeah, exactly. So here's the deal. If we take the $15,960 federal poverty line and we divide it out by 12 months, it comes out to $1,330 a month. That's what SSI benefits are supposed to be. That's how much they're supposed to be. Remember, I said this earlier and I've said this recently in other videos, the SSI program was formed as an anti-poverty program. Therefore, this program is supposed to be keeping par and equal to the federal poverty line every single year. It's not. It's way below the federal poverty line to a tune of $336 a month below the federal poverty line. That's about $4,000 a year below the federal poverty line. That $115,960 for the federal poverty line of a household of one divided out equals $1,330 a month. So therefore, as an SSI beneficiary, that's where your benefits are supposed to be. Now, one thing that I want to point out really quickly recently, you heard me talk about the SSI Restoration Act, right? The SSI Restoration Act. You heard me talk about that. One of the main provisions within the SSI Restoration Act, in that video that I had out just not that long ago, maybe a week, 2 weeks ago, something like that. In that video, I was talking about how that's one of the main provisions within it. Raise SSI benefits up to the federal poverty line and then index it to the federal poverty line as it's supposed to be every single year. Therefore, that piece of legislation would raise benefits up from $994 as an individual up to $1,330 a month as an individual. An increase of $336 a month is how much these benefits would need to be increased just to be at par with the federal poverty line. As the program was originally set up to do 50-some odd years ago, 54 years ago or so, give or take a little bit, when it was brought in, drop a comment down below. Would an extra $336 a month be a big deal for you as an SSI beneficiary right now? Would that help a little bit? I think for a lot of people, the answer would be yes. If your SSI benefit was increased up to $1,330 a month from the maximum of $994, would that help you out a little bit? I think so. Again, I don't want to assume, I don't want to sit here and act like, oh, I think $336 a month would be very helpful. But I think it'd probably be pretty helpful for a lot of people. That'd be a huge increase. But remember, it's not like, whoa, that'd be such a great gift from them, and that'd be so great. It would be, but this is what they're supposed to be at anyway. This is where your benefits are supposed to be. This is not supposed to be like some big thing where it's like, oh, well, maybe someday they should do that. No, this is where they're supposed to be. But they're not because of lackluster cost of living adjustments that have not kept up with real price increases, real inflation adjustments, and then also we have the element of compounding and time. Because of all of that together, we have this huge discrepancy of $336 a month below the federal poverty line as far as where they're supposed to be. Does that make sense? But how could we do this? How could we fix the injustices that are going on? That's why I've been saying, and why I said in that video just the other day when I was talking about the SSI Restoration Act, I said it's a great piece of legislation. If they were to just pass the SSI Restoration Act, that in and of itself would raise benefits up to the federal poverty line. Now, I want to be fair with you. They have not passed that piece of legislation yet, but if they were to do that, that'd be massively helpful for SSI beneficiaries and give a huge permanent and instant boost to benefits significantly. This could almost be likened to the Social Security Fairness Act. Remember when they passed that back in early 2025? I think it was signed into law on maybe like January 5th or so of 2025. And then there were about 3.1 million people that got huge back payments sent to them. The average payment was $6,710. That was the average back payment. And then the average person got an extra like $300 to $700 a month more forever permanent raise to their benefit just because of that one piece of legislation. That was 3.1 million people. Well, SSI encompasses about 7.5 million people, and the average benefit would go up by, say, $336 a month. They did it for Social Security beneficiaries. Why can't they do it for SSI? Same difference there is fair. What other sayings can I think of that I probably said when I was 10? Something like that. You know what I mean? But that's the point and why I want to bring this to your attention, just so you can see where your benefits are actually supposed to be as an SSI beneficiary. This affects 7.5 million people right now. That's disabled adults who've never been able to hold down consistent work because of their conditions. That's seniors who are 65 or older but didn't have enough work credits to qualify for regular Social Security retirement. That's blind individuals. That's disabled children from low-income families. These are people who depend on SSI to survive, and they're being forced to live below the poverty line by the very program that was designed to prevent poverty. Let that sink in. And here's another problem with this program. It's so outdated. If you're an SSI beneficiary and you try to better your life or increase your finances or better your situation financially, you basically get kicked off the program. You know that. That's why SSI beneficiaries don't try to flinch or move a muscle, because they're scared that if they do anything to produce a penny of income, they're going to get kicked off. Obviously, a penny won't do it, but pretty close. You understand what I'm saying? If you have any income as an SSI beneficiary and you try to better your life, the program literally penalizes you for it. That's the problem with this program. It's forcing 7.5 million people to literally be forced into poverty because of how it's structured. I think this is important to talk about simply because if nobody talks about this, if nobody makes a big deal about this, lawmakers who know very well that this is the case with this program, if nobody talks about this, they're just going to sweep it under the rug and be like, out of sight, out of mind. Don't talk about it. Nobody tells if we don't talk about it. So that's what I'm saying. If we make a big deal about this and bring this out into the forefront and bring this out so that it's clearly visible and maybe approach lawmakers about this, it'd be like, hey, look, what do you think about this? What are we going to do about this? When are you going to pass the SSI Restoration Act or some kind of piece of legislation that does something for the SSI program rather than literally forcing 7.5 million people to be forced into poverty because of how the program and how it's set up? Now, let me give you some quick facts about SSI so you understand the full picture. SSI is for people who are disabled, blind, or age 65 and older and have very limited income and resources. You don't need to have worked or paid into Social Security to get it. That's different from Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, which requires work credits. The current maximum is $994 for an individual and $1,191 for a couple in 2026. But as we've established, that's not where it should be. To qualify, you need to have limited income, generally less than the SSI payment amount, and you need to have limited resources, no more than $2,000 for an individual or $3,000 for a couple. They don't count your home, one vehicle, or personal belongings towards that limit. If you qualify for SSI, you automatically qualify for Medicaid in most states. That's huge. And you may also qualify for SNAP benefits, food stamps, which could be another $200 to $300 in assistance. Here are some things you should know if you're on SSI or thinking about applying. About 70% of initial SSI applications are denied, but many of those people actually qualify. They just didn't provide enough medical evidence. If you get denied, appeal it. Your chances go up significantly if you stick with it. Make sure you report any changes to Social Security within 10 days. If your income changes, if you move, if your living situation changes, if you don't, you could end up with an overpayment that you have to pay back. I've seen people owe thousands because they didn't report something. And look into every program you qualify for. SSI recipients often qualify for reduced utility bills, free phone service through Lifeline, housing assistance, and more. But you have to apply for these separately. Some states also offer supplemental payments on top of the federal SSI amount. If you live in California, New York, New Jersey, or several other states, you could be getting more than the $994 federal maximum. Look into your state's program, like soon, like real soon. They need to do something about this. I hope this gives this issue a little bit more light and gives us some needed attention here so that maybe we can get some action on SSI benefits, a major reform to the program, something like that. I'll certainly keep you posted as I see more information. Look, living on $994 a month is incredibly difficult. It's not enough, and it hasn't been enough for a long time, but you deserve to know where your benefits are actually supposed to be. You deserve to know that you're being shortchanged by $336 a month, almost $4,000 a year from where an anti-poverty program should have you. I'm here for you. Please consider subscribing, 100% free. Big subscribe button down below. Please share this video. Big share button right down below. Otherwise, drop your comments down below. I really appreciate hearing from you. Would an extra $336 a month help you? Let me know in the comments. And if you think the SSI Restoration Act should be passed, let me know that too. Thanks so much. Otherwise, stay tuned. I'll keep you posted with everything else going on. Enjoy your day. Thanks for being here. Have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next.